All right, are finishing up here with the setup of the A3 on our Outlaw 250. A couple kind of last items to get set up here. One of those is on your transmitter. All right, you can hear those different sounds there. Okay, there's two things I've set up on my transmitter, and we did something very similar when we set up our arming switch, which in my case is right here, our arming switch or throttle cut. Okay, we just set up something exactly the same, but for channel 6. This was for channel 5. Our flight modes, which mine are right here, okay, are on channel 6. So if we go, whoops, let's see, let me just zoom in here instead of trying to hold this up to the screen. We'll go into our mixer page. Okay, you can see my mixes. Channel 6 is set to SC. I've named it flight mode. You can use whatever switch you want, but mine's set to SC, and you want to make sure it's on channel 6. That's going to control your flight modes for your A3. Okay. If you want the sounds, then you go over to special functions, just like we do with our throttle cut. And you can see all these SC, these bottom three here, play track, play track, play track. Okay, that's what makes the sounds when I change the switch position. Okay. All right, and that should be basically the same thing as these other ones here for my throttle cut. Engine off and armed, which you may or may not have put on there. The sounds don't really make any difference to how it flies, obviously, but they help you hear what mode you're putting the airplane in, and just kind of a little reminder of what's going on with your plane when you're in the air or before you take off. So that's how you would do those. If you want to do those, just reference the video talking about the throttle cut and arming switch, because I do the exact same thing there where I add those play tracks for engine off and armed. Okay, that's our transmitter setup. Now we're going to go back to the A3 configurator, and you may remember on this very first page of the A3 configurator some things that we had skipped over. Okay, the first thing I want to show you though is in the receiver tab, our mode channel, which we set to channel 6 earlier. Okay, make sure I'm recording this. Good. Channel 6. Now when I move that channel 6 switch, okay, we get those different modes and it moves around. Perfect. All right. We'll go back to the basic tab now and skip and jump into some of those things we skipped before. Okay, we have the gyro settings here and the reverse settings here. Now let me flip over to the dot cam for a second, and we'll do a normal kind of pre-flight high five check. I'm going to make sure I'm in manual mode. So the airplane shouldn't be doing any kind of stabilization. It's completely manual, doesn't move unless I tell it to. Okay, and we can now go, okay, let's go ahead and move the stick one way, move the stick the other way, and we see the ailerons move appropriately, kind of comes up to give us that high five. So, oops, sorry, when I move this way, it comes up to give me a high five to the stick. This way, high five to this side. Pull the elevator and it comes up and gives me a high five in the back. Push it forward, it gives me a high five kind of like around the plane. That's called your high five check. You want to make sure everything's moving the right way in manual mode. Okay. Now we're going to switch into the fully self-leveling mode. Okay, so all the way down on mine, the stabilize mode. Can pick up the plane. Okay, and now I want to make sure the surface is moved correctly to stabilize the plane. So if the plane gets pushed or bumped one way, we want it to self-level. If I tilt the plane this way, okay, we should see this aileron come up and this one go down. Because if this one goes down on the left side, it's going to lift this wing, and that will level the plane out. This one goes up, it's going to drop this wing, and that will level the plane out. Okay, so we tip it to the left, we should see that. Tip it to the right, we should see this one drop to bring this wing back up. Okay, opposite on this side, of course. And then the elevator, if we pitch the plane down, the elevator should come up in order to pull the nose back up. If we pitch the plane up, the elevator should go down to push the nose back down. So we're leveling the plane, right? Self-leveling the plane. I'm going to set it back down on the table there. Okay, and we should still have control with our transmitter, even in stabilized mode, of those surfaces. So we can double check them again. To the left, okay, that's going to go down. This one comes up, so it's going to be a left turn or left bank. Right, and if we pull up, the elevator should come up to raise the nose. Okay, push down, go down. So we're in business. Those are looking good. Now I already set mine up. If you have something incorrect, Okay, say you move in stabilize mode, you move your plane, to the left, and it does the wrong movement on the ailerons. Okay, what you want to do there, sorry, my ESC's yelling at me a little bit. There we go. Okay, if your aileron moves the wrong way, you need to go into the A3 page here. Let's see. And you might need to tick the REV for reverse box for one of your surfaces. I actually do it for all 3 of my surfaces to get them to move the right way. Remember, you have 2 ailerons and your elevator, and they can all be the wrong way potentially, like mine were, okay, or they could be right. It just kind of depends on how you mounted your servos, really. Okay, I shouldn't say it's the wrong way. It's just the opposite way. It's very common when you're setting up an RC airplane to have things be backwards. It's not wrong. It's just different. Okay, and I guess, well, let me take it back. It's wrong for the plane to fly correctly if they're that way, but it doesn't mean you did anything wrong when you built the plane, if that makes sense. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so we'll get this set up here so the reversal settings are correct, and that again should lead our plane to self-stabilize. Okay, and these different movements, they should all be correct, as well as our movements with the sticks in both a stabilized flight mode and manual flight mode. You can check the kind of wind rejection mode as well, but it's just harder to see that. You can't really see it on the plane when you pick it up as much. You can still see it in manual mode, but as long as the controls are moving correctly in manual and in stabilized, all other modes should work well, at least for what we're doing with this plane. Okay. All right, let's go back over here. The only other thing we can play with on our plane is if we wanted to assign another channel to, let's see here, to this gain here. That's assigned to none on mine. You can assign it to a channel if you want. What that will help you set up is later on, when you're flying the plane, if it starts to kind of do an oscillation or a shake, it's kind of, let's see if I can kind of try to show you with the plane. If it starts to kind of, as it's flying along, go like this, almost like a twitching motion in either axis or things like that, you may have too high of gains, what are called gains for the aircraft. Okay, and those have to do with the control loops and things like that. We don't talk about much in this class, but that's how the A3 is helping to control your plane. And so you can set a channel to change that gain, and that would basically be changing these numbers in the gain setting area live while you're flying. You could adjust it from, say, 50 up, I don't know, end up in 75 or something like that. Okay. I'd recommend not worrying about that right now, but you can add it later if you want. The only other thing you can mess with is this control behavior. If you want to start out with normal, if you want to start with very stable, I wouldn't put in these other Sport 3D ones here, but stable or very, very stable or normal would probably be a good place to start. And you can write all that to your A3 once you've set up all these functions, how you like them, okay, and the way they should be. Okay, all right. That should take care of our setup, hopefully, and get you all on the right path to getting your A3 working on your Outlaw. This will help a lot with your flight, hopefully make it more stable and a little bit easier to fly, especially if you're a beginner. And of course, you can still fly in manual mode if you're not a beginner and want to just rip around and do aerobatics and stuff. One thing that is normal that I should note, okay, and it's going to be a little hard to see with the plane being in this orientation, but let's try it. Okay, so if I'm in manual mode, you can kind of see how far the control surface is moving right now. If I'm in manual mode, I have this much movement. Okay, if I hold the stick over, let's kind of get this, and while I'm holding it over, I change modes, it reduces the amount of movement I have. Okay, so by default, stabilized mode has less movement than manual mode, just to make it easier to fly. Okay, and that's expected, so that's totally normal. A lot of stabilizers do that, okay, and that can be adjusted if you'd like, but that's how it is by default. So don't get worried if it changes the amount of movement on aileron or elevator between flight modes. That's totally normal. Okay, you can still make adjustments to your transmitter, like we talked about in class and in the PicaSim setup. Whoops, on your modes and rate, or your rates and expo. Okay. Oops, I went backwards. Sorry. There we go. Inputs page. Okay. So just like we set up for our Picasim, you still want to have some rates and expo for your plane, and you can adjust those as well to change the movement of your control surfaces. So I would recommend for an Outlaw like this, something like 70% rate and maybe 50% expo. Okay, you can always play with that. It's a little bit individual on how much expo and stuff you want, but on my ailerons and my elevator, I have the same amount here, and that's also going to affect how much these surfaces move, okay, outside of the A3's configuration, okay. So a couple of things you can adjust there to get it to work how you want it to. These planes are very aerobatic, so I don't think we'll have any problems with having enough control surface movement to do whatever moves you want to do with your plane. But if you want to tweak things, those are a couple ways you can tweak things. All right. Thanks for watching. Hope this playlist, these videos help you get your A3 set up in your Outlaw and you have a good experience with the plane. And you might crash, but that's okay. It's all part of learning. And this thing is way simple to put together and also pretty simple to fix. So that's a real bonus of the little Outlaw plane here. All right. Take care.